Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am Argo Nguyen, and today I would like to bring up the issue that Microsoft Corporation, the stock with the ticker MSFT, is currently a very good buy, as it has been down over 7% in the last 6 months, and I am considering adding this to my portfolio, and I feel like you should be considering this stock as well. Microsoft has had a great monopoly on office work and also the AI platforms that it has. Microsoft Azure is going to do great in 2026. So let me know what you think about this stock, and I would do further analysis and will consider adding this to my portfolio. In today's video, I would like to talk more broadly about finance and more on the financial literacy of how to budget and how to set yourself up for the future. So first things first, looking at your bank account, right, should not be something that worries you a lot. And since most of us don't really have a money problem, we tend to have more of a direction problem. We don't tell our money where to go, so we wonder where it went. But of course, I understand that we have bills to pay and lots of expenses to take care of. And sometimes it's really hard to do it with our limited income. So, of course, in this video, I would like to give you guys a head start on how to start budgeting in 2026. It's not very hard. Everyone can do it. And even if we all have a limited income, it is something we can do to better position ourselves for the future. So I want to pause for a second now and acknowledge, well, the elephant in the room is that most of us have a lot of things to pay off, especially if you're a student trying to balance classes or you're just starting out in your career. I am a second year in college, so I know how it feels to have a very limited income with a lot of expenses to take care of. And since you have your income, it feels like you have those fixed expenses that just hit like clockwork: rent, car payments, phone bills, and even insurance. So a lot of people have to pay these off at this very early age, myself included. So I understand how frustrated it is, but there is a lot of things you can do to better prepare yourself for those. Sometimes your paycheck, it feels like it's a layover before it just flies out back at the door, right? You feel like the moment the money comes in, it goes out as quickly. So, but even if things feel tight, there are ways to manage that. There are ways to not feel so bad about your expenses. And budgeting isn't about feeling guilty for what you have to pay. It's also about finding the small pockets of control in your daily life, right? So you can breathe a little easier. You don't have to be so uptight about money. And you don't have to feel like you're balancing every single penny in your life. The first step that I'd like to talk about is to track your expenses. Tracking your expenses is something you have to do before you can plan for the future. You have to look at the past. So for the next 30 days or the last 30 days, you will need to track every single cent. Use an app, use a spreadsheet, or even a notebook if you're an old-fashioned person. You aren't judging yourself. You're just gathering data on what you're spending your money on. And you'll probably find that these small, for example, $5 purchases are actually a $150 a month habit. What I would recommend is using something like Google Sheets. For example, I have specifically designed my own spreadsheet to track my own expenses. And as you can see, we have 5 different columns to take notes on. We have the date, we have the store, the amount that I spent, and what I spent on. These ones are very self-explanatory because you can see what you spent your money on. And it's very important to do that so that you have self-discipline in order to track your expenses and see what you're spending the most amount of money on. The last column that I would like you to see is the needs, wants, and future. It basically means that what I'm spending it on, is it a want? Is it a need that I need to spend on? Or is it something that I'm saving for my future? I'll elaborate on that column as I go with the video, but make sure that you have that column prepared for you. Moving on, I'd like to talk about a spreadsheet that is called a personal statement. This is basically where you put all of your expenses and all of your income together so that you have a general idea of where your money is going. The income part of the statement is where you list all your jobs, where it comes from, and also how much it pays you. The expenses is basically, it includes the fixed cost, and it also includes what you're spending on, like a recurring expense. For example, insurance, for example, a car payment, or even a gym subscription. Apart from these two tables, we also have the assets and the liabilities. And to speak very frankly, assets mean things that you are investing in. For example, here you see that I am invested in stocks, or even my investment, or even my retirement account. And also, if you have gold or other items that are basically collectibles and accrue value over time, you can include those in the assets table. The thing with liabilities is that these things cost you money each month. And for example, a car, you can think a car is an asset, but more if you think more about it, a car is like a liability. Because right now you're paying for it month by month if you have a car payment, and you have to pay for gas, you have to pay for maintenance. And it's as the same as a house. Even though a house is an equity that you build over time, there are things that you have to spend in order to keep it running. That's why it's considered a liability. And the general rule is that you have, or you should have, more assets than liabilities. Apart from those, what you can also do is what I do, which is there's a little table where I say the total income for that month, the total expenses for that month, and how much money I really have at the end of the month. And that becomes the cash available. And since, for example, if this month I have $462.11 as payday, it means that the next month I will start off with $462.11 as savings. It just means that the money is just staying there in my bank account, and I can do whatever I want with it. And it's saying that I have a positive money cash flow, as in I spend less than I accrue. I also included a notes section where I track every single investment, or how much recurring expense really costs me. For example, for the car payments, let's say I have a 7.14 interest on a $5,600 car. That means that over the course of 60 months, which is 5 years, I will have $6,000 paid. And since I have a payment each month of around $100, it means that I have autopay set up from a checking account. You should also track where your money is coming from. Basically saying, what if you want to avoid overdraft fees and even overpayment fees? Then you need to set up autopay, or you have to do it manually each month and keep track of them. This is the first step to take control of your budget, right? You have to see which account it's coming from, and whether you need to check up on that account often. For your investments, I usually write down what I'm invested in and how much money it's accruing or losing over time. That is also the assets column, which is where you list everything that you have and it accrues or loses value over time, such as stocks, certificates of deposits, or even gold or other tangible items, right? And all of these, I have included in my personal finance minimalist template, which I will include the link in the description. I have made this template by myself, so it will not look as pretty as those templates you see on the internet, but it works perfectly for me. I use it personally, and after looking at it, I feel like you should get the hang of it. And since it's very minimalistic, you don't need to think too much about how it works or every other thing that you need to worry about. All you have to do is just type in your expenses, type in your income, type in your assets, type in your liabilities, and you should be all good from there. The next step I want to talk about is the 50-30-20 rule. And what this means is that for the 50 rule, you would have to spend around 50% of your income on needs. For example, rent, groceries, utilities, and insurance. These are the non-negotiables. And I would also consider this fixed cost. It means that everything that you need to pay for. And the key word here is need. Secondly, it's 30% wants. What does this mean? It means that you are dining out, you're spending money on hobbies, and also that Netflix prescription or subscription that you have. This means that for all your wants, it should only take up about 30% of your income. Because if you spend too much on them, you would possibly or most likely to have a negative cash flow. And this is the important part that most people miss because they spend too much on wants. That is to spend 20% of your income into your future. This means that it's either debt repayment or high yield saving accounts or even retirement accounts. And if you're fancy, you should also go for a brokerage account so that you can invest in your favorite companies. And since these companies are doing well, they're doing fine, they will accrue in value over time. And the money that you have sitting in your brokerage account or your savings account is passively making you money. That is why I stress so much on investing in your future. And in the spreadsheet that I talked about, there is a little section that calculates how much money you have spent on your needs, your wants, and your futures. And what you can see right here is a good example of what it should look like. 46% spent on needs, 37% spent on wants, and 16% spent on futures. I'm a little behind of all of these, but you see how it functions. And this is what you should be aiming for. Always have the discipline to take actions when your categories are going over the limit, right? And make sure to stay within the 50-30-20 rule, because this is your best chance of maximizing success in building your future and building your wealth. For example, if your needs are taking up 70%, it's a sign that you need to either increase your income or lower your fixed cost. And once again, I have a function in the spreadsheet that helps you see how much of a percentage that you're actually using towards each category. So make sure to check the description because I feel like this is a very important part of your budgeting career. Next step, I would like to talk about setting up an emergency fund. What does this mean? It means that before you start investing or buying shiny things, there is an emergency fund that you need to prepare. And since that life happens, such as jobs changing or your tires pop or even your laptop dies, you would need a safety net to fall back on. And you should aim for an initial starter funds of around $1,000 to $2,000 if you have some, of course. When I started off, I didn't have any money to start off with. So I have to take out of my living expenses or even my income into a fund that eventually you want to have 3 to 6 months of expenses tucked away in a high yield savings account. A high yield savings plan is basically like a savings account, but with significantly better returns. If you're familiar with either Chase or Bank of America savings account, you know that the interest rates on these accounts is very low. What you should be looking for is smaller banks, less significant banks, but they give you around 3 to 4% interest rates. And as I said, we don't really have $1,000 or $2,000 to start off with. So as you start making your emergency fund, you should take around 10% of your monthly income and put it in a savings account, or specifically a high yield savings account. And since you only put a 10% of your income into the savings account, you just keep doing that until you reach around 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Let's say as a college student, right? I would say your living expenses around each month is around, well, if you live like in your own apartment, I would say around $1,000 to $2,000 each month. So after working every single month, you should put in and save up around $4,000 to $5,000. I know it sounds a lot for a college student, but if you have this much accrued over time, it's going to help you start getting passive income. It's not a lot, but it's better than just leaving money alone, and it's going to decrease in value over time due to inflation. Next step I want to talk about is to give your money a job. What does that mean? It means that whether it's a vacation, a new car, or retirement, seeing the progress made every month by saying no to a lot of random impulse buy. This means that you give your money a purpose, right? What if you say, hey, I would like to save up for a new car because my car is very old. Then suddenly you have a drive to start saving your money. And the most important thing is that you have to be specific with your job. And it's not just, I want to be rich, I want to make more money, I want to feel better about myself. But let's say, what if I say, I want to be able to retire with $1 million? I would like a new car, I would like a vacation, I would like a gift from my girlfriend. These are specific. You want specific goals. So all in all, how to start budgeting, it comes down to 4 steps. You have to track your reality. You have to spend and keep your money and invest your money using the 50-30-20 rule. Make an emergency fund and give your money a job. This is how you start budgeting in the simplest terms ever. I know it's hard to balance your cost, balance your living expenses with the limited income that students have. I know and I understand how hard that is. But once you start doing this and control your impulse buy, you are set for a bright and pleasant future. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to just leave a comment. I will be answering questions to do the best of my ability. Thank you so much for watching. And in the next video or series, I should be able to go over what's the best banks for a high yield savings account, what's a good retirement account to open, how to invest in stocks, because I feel like so many people are lost in this generation when it comes to money and when it comes to saving for your future. So thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video.